I wanted to start right where we stopped. Wow. I would like to start right where we ended last time and pick up by looking at the multiplication table problem. So I'm going to open my code to actually show a solution in a bit more detail. Can everyone see my screen, please? Can I get a thumbs up as a confirmation that we are good? Perfect. So here, let me scroll this over some. When I run this, this is what we get, okay? And this is our goal that we had split up into groups last time at the end of the last session on Tuesday to try to use nested loops to create this multiplication table. So what I'd like to do is just simply go over the basics of this code. The first part was just to print the header. So if I just get rid of this very quickly and I run that same code, you see what's changed is that what I just cut out was to print all of that. Okay, that's just the header. That's not really the body of the table. That's the header of the multiplication table. And so I want to ignore that for the moment. I would like to look at how do we just print this body of the table? Because when you're looking at this as a new programmer, what you should see is when we talked about doing two nested for loops is you should see the idea of printing an entire table of data. So for example, when I look at this whole thing here, okay, this table of data, what you should see is, well, I need to print this first row, right? This whole row, which I'm having a hard time highlighting because of my mouse space, but I want to print this first row here, right? That whole row. Then I want to print the second row. Then I want to print the third row and the fourth row. And we want to end by printing this 10th row. So we're going to print each row one at a time. And with that in mind, if I were to ask you, well, how many times will we need to iterate? How many times will our loop need to execute? Well, the number of rows. So it needs to loop 10 times. So you could say right here, for I in range, I could just say for I in range 10. And that would in fact loop 10 times. But then, or for row in range 10, but then this variable row, it will get the values. If I say for row in range 10, what values will row get? What are the 10 values row will get?
0 through 9.
Can't hear you.
0 through 9.
Can't hear you. I mean, I hear that you're trying to say something, or unless maybe it's my volume. That could
0 through 9.
There you go. That was probably my volume. Try that again.
0 through 9.
Yeah, no, you don't need to do that. I think that was my volume. So yeah, if I say for row in range 10, that would actually give us the values 0 through 9. And we could add 1 and try to make that work to get this value 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then so on. But it's better, it's easier if I just say for row in range 1, 11. And remember, this number here is the upper limit of values that row will get, but it's 1 more than row will get. So row will actually get the values 1, 10. Okay, so for each row of the table, so that first row, I need to print all of the contents of that row. And in fact, let me even ignore this. This says print the row header information, which is referring to this right here, and this right here, and this right here. So what if I even delete that out? I get rid of the row header information and get rid of, again, the header itself. What's left when I print this? What's left is just the body of the multiplication table, which is really what I was asking y'all to work on last time. So now for every single row, so it's going to loop 10 times, we need to now print. So on this first row, I need to print 1 through 10, which is really 1 times 1, 1 times 2, 1 times 3, 1 times 4, and so on. Let's look at the second row. This is 2 times 1, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4, up to 2 times 9, and 2 times 10. Look at one more. Let's look at the seventh row. This is 7 times 1, 7 times 2, 7 times 3, up to 7 times 9, 7 times 10. So that should be clear. So again, for each row, we're going to loop 10 times. We're going to loop 10 times over the number of rows. And now for each row, we need to print every value of that row, okay? So how do I print every single value of this first row? Well, I now say for column. We pretend like we view this as like a table of Excel data. Okay, I'm sure many of you have seen and used Microsoft Excel. We view this as a table of Excel data, and here, one second, hit, cool. And so here, this is the first cell, second cell, third cell, fourth cell, fifth cell, ninth cell, 10th cell, if you will, or column. So here I'm going to say for column in range, how many columns of data are being printed? That's 10 columns. How many columns of data are being printed here? Just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to loop 10 times. But I want you to see that this for loop right here, look at this for loop. I want everyone to pay attention. Look at that for loop. If I just ask you a simple question, forget what's inside the loop. That's not important. We can delete that for the moment. If I say, look at this for loop, how many times does it run? Very quick. Let me ask you, Coulson, how many times does that for loop run right there?
10.
Perfect. It loops 10 times from 1 to 10. So what I want you to recognize is that for loop loops 10 times, and it loops 10 times for each time that the outer for loop executes. Okay? So here, row is going to get the value, notepad, row is going to get the value of 1. And when row gets the value of 1, the inner for loop, inner loop, you just stated, Coulson, this inner loop right here for call in range 111, it iterates 10 times. Now row gets the value of 2. And again, that inner loop iterates 10 times. Then row gets the value of 3. And the inner loop iterates 10 times. All the way to, let's go to row 9. Okay, of course, we have 6 other rows, or 5 other rows in there. Now we get to row 9, and the inner loop, again, iterates 10 times. And then row 10, and again, the inner loop iterates 10 times. So that's a total of 100 iterations, 100 things that are printed. I wanted to really reiterate that, make sure that's very clear. So here, for each row, now we're indented. Notice we're indented inside that for loop. So here, now for that first row, for every column in that row. So for those 10 columns, what do we want to print? In effect, we're just printing row times column. That's really, if you look at the dot format, we're really printing row times column. I mean, I really could have just come in here. Most of you, when I looked at your answers last time, most of you started by printing just row times call. That's what you did. You had something like this. You had all of these values. And then I said, hey, put row times call and then put end equals space, or end equals like this after each one. And y'all did that. And that's where most of y'all were at the end of last session. And so all you then had to do is really realize, hey, well, let's make this entire print statement. Let's use formatted printing. So this is just saying, you know, we have a placeholder. If I got rid of that, just print the placeholder with a space afterwards, and let's print row times call, and you get this. It's looking a little bit better. And then you realize, you know what, how do we get it equally spaced? Let's remove this space. Let's put in this formatted printing details where we're saying print it as a decimal, as an integer over 4 spaces right aligned, okay? And then we run that again and we finally get it looking the way we'd like to look. But notice, since this is printing all of one column, okay? This right here prints that prints all of one row. So this right here, print a row of multiplied values. That's what this for loop does. It loops over every single column and it prints a row of multiplied values, okay? So at the end of that row, we need to print a new line. So also where many of you were last time is you basically had this. You went from printing everything on one line I'm sorry, you went from printing 100 lines of information to then printing everything on one line. So you had to realize, hey, we need to print a new line after each row, and you get to this, okay? And so you end up with this body of the table. So what really remains at this point is to, oh no, bear with me. Okay, make sure I put everything back in. What remains is just to print the extra details around the table. And so now if you notice, before actually printing, so here is to print the entire all 10 rows. And here's what we just printed, the contents of that one row. Well, prior to actually printing this contents of the row, okay, or this set of contents of that row, prior to printing that, we really want to print the row number, this little vertical line. And so I did that right here. That's what this for loop did right here. The first thing in the for loop of that to print the row, as I said, you know what, let's first print the row number. So I printed row right here as 2 decimals. I could have put right aligned. No, actually, yeah, it is right aligned. Right aligned. And then I put a space, then I put a vertical bar, and then I put a space, okay? And that's what we got. Had I changed this to left aligned, look at the difference, we would have had these numbers were aligned to the left, and that's perfectly fine as well, okay? So that's simply printing the header of the row of each row information, and then above up here, this was simply printing the header information as well, which I don't think we need to go through those fine details. So this is where we ended last time. I'd like to start you all off with a very simple stretching exercise. So bear with me. Let me first look at the breakout rooms. Create rooms. Let me see who's going to be in each room. Cool. Just bear with me just one moment. Okay, because I'm going to ask specific people on this one to do the coding. And the people I'm going to ask, this is hopefully a nice warm-up question. Like before you go exercise, what do you, in theory, do if it's a hard exercise? If you're on a basketball team at high school or whatnot, volleyball team, football team, what do you do before exercising? In theory, you stretch, right? So before we go do a more thorough exercise, I want to give you a little stretching warm-up to do, okay? It's a very simple one in theory, but it's also been several days and maybe it's early for us and our brains we got to get the dust off. So what I'd like is Mariam, I want you to code in the room you're going to be in. So I want you to share your screen. Farha, I would like you to share your screen. And then let's see, how about Musab? I would like you to share your screen. Musab, can you share your screen? Does it work for you?
Yes, it does.
And Kulsum, it works for you as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I want you 3 to share your screens. And what am I going to ask you to actually do? I'll show you. Let me come to just a simple stretching exercise, and it is as follows. You're going to ask the user to enter an integer. It's that simple. You ask the user, enter an integer. And so they enter, for example, the number 4. And then you should print, here are 4 lines, each with an asterisk. And then you print those 4 lines with an asterisk. That should be clear, I hope. So what I would encourage each of you to do is to maybe hit print screen, or if you like, I can even do that myself. I'll click this here, bear with me, print screen, paint. You can watch me do this very quickly. I don't want anyone to say they don't have this. Select, crop, save. Okay, so I'm going to send this to you in the chat. Farha, you cannot share your screen? Gotcha. Okay, then I'll pick someone else. Bear with me. So in the chat, I'm going to send this file. I think it's pretty straightforward. As I told you, it's an easy stretching exercise. You're going to see there is a wisdom to it, though. So go to your chat, please, and double click that 4stars.jpg that I just sent to all of you. Okay, make sure you double click that. Let's see. So Farha, you said you cannot share. So who can I have who have not seen as much coding from? Bear with me. How about Rebecca? Can you share your screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So if I can have my Mariam, Rebecca, and I think it was Musab. If y'all can share in your rooms, and here's the breakout room. So look, as everyone goes into their breakout rooms, let's make this just really quick and easy. Farha, Rebecca, I presume y'all are going to your rooms slowly. So look, what was the actual question? It was enter an integer. So print, enter an integer. And then we need to scan it. So how about we call it num equals int input. And then I need to print here are blank lines, each with an asterisk. Here are blank lines, each with an asterisk. Asterisk, I can't spell. Okay, dot format. And I call this num. So let's make sure that works before we actually print the asterisks. Done. And so now we do a for loop for I in range num print asterisk. Pretty straightforward. If I want to fix it, I'll put this new line here. Okay, so let's go check and see how y'all have done.
Got it?
Yep, I did.
Okay, so now you share your screen.
Give me 1 second. I need to open it up.
I mean, you don't see any of the files in the chat?
Nope. Okay, I need to look back at this for a second.
So I just heard some talk, so that tells me she didn't have that picture, but now she does.
Yeah, she didn't see it in the chat, and I tried sending it
Okay.
to her. She didn't get it either.
So go ahead and save that file, Mariam.
Hmm?
That's the first step. Delete what you have there, please. Now go ahead and save that file.
What is this supposed to be called?
Call it 4 stars. You should not have spaces. You should not have spaces in the name. Hit save. I assume you can prompt the user to enter an integer. Do that in a print statement first, then read on the next line, please. No, do it exactly as you see. You don't see the word please, right? Enter an integer.
Wait, I did the wrong thing.
No, you did not do the wrong thing. Why do you think you did the wrong thing?
Because you can do int input and then put it inside brackets.
No, I want you to do that. I said I want you to print on one line, and then I want you to scan on the second line.
No space.
Can you help her out?
Well, first of all, you don't need a dot end.
So help her out to fix that line, please.
Yep. Okay.
You don't see any other error,
we
Sean,
need to-
on
we
that
need to-
line? Farha, do you see an error on that line? Ibrahim, do you see an error on that
Yeah,
line?
you're reading it in, but you're not, like, you're reading in a value, but you're not saving it
No,
anywhere.
on line number 1, Ibrahim.
Oh, and equals quotes.
There no space?
It doesn't matter
No,
about the space.
there needs to be a equal sign. And equals.
I'm gonna go check out another room. Is anyone giving you feedback, Rebecca?
So is the error on line 3? Because I'm trying to find it.
I was trying to figure out what it was too.
Because when I typed it in mine works. Print.
Just change the, instead of calling it integer, call it num, please. Run that again. Did you run it? I wouldn't have thought there was an issue, but I still just had to.
Some sort of
Yeah, no,
syntax.
at the end of line 1, you're missing a right parentheses. That was it. There's now more stuff, spacing. There's an extra space on line 6. Yep. Looking for
There
those
it goes.
parentheses are never fun. Okay, cool. That probably took longer than expected, but I think another group is still working on theirs, so I'll bring you back to the main room very shortly. Just give me a
Alright.
moment, please. Cool, I see y'all are done. Is everything working as you expect?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. Give us about another 60 seconds and we'll come back to the main room.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I just started hearing you.
Yes.
Okay, that was weird. So you might just put a for loop and loop until num.
Hit enter, please. How do you make a for loop, Mariam? Say, you have to say something, please. Mariam,
Yes?
you need to please answer me.
I'm
How
not
do you-
trying to think. I'm
Okay, well,
memorization.
Okay, say I don't know. Say you have to say something. How do you start? Do you start a for loop by typing while? What's the first thing you type on a for loop? So pull up your notes, please. Hit file, open, Go to module 5. Where's module 5? Down, 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 down. And you may not have anything in
Yeah,
there.
I barely have anything in here.
Okay.
I'm like,
Ibert, can you please tell her what to write?
4. Well, you're first going to delete however many.
No, close your module 5 notes, please.
Oh, okay. So you're going to write 4 space I space in range num parentheses num. And you should likely not have that space between range and num. And then put a colon at the end. And then you put your statement inside. So you're going to put your asterisk.
So you're supposed to put an asterisk?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in quotes. That's not going to print anything right now.
So this is going to loop num times. Num is going to get the values. If the user enters 4, num is going to loop for I in range 4, and I will get the values 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now we're not printing I, we're not using I, we're just printing a star. Run that, please. Okay, so let me end the breakout rooms. That was intended as a stretching exercise. It took a little bit longer than necessary, but that's why I wanted to do it, to make sure that we all could do something simple, a stretching exercise. With that said, now I want you all to look at the following problem, where first we had to go print 4 lines, each with an asterisk, and now I want you to print a triangle of asterisks. That same program, just modify that exact same program, okay? And Ibrahim, what did you have Mariam do since she did not get that picture? How did she end up getting it on her screen? Can't hear you, unmute.
I shared my screen and then just had her take a screenshot because for some reason she couldn't see the file in the chat window. Okay, so everyone, I'm not sure if everyone knows how to take a screenshot as well. That's often easier. If y'all just hit print screen. So does everyone know how to take a screenshot, I hope, on your laptop, on your computer, your keyboard? You should have at least for, I don't know about Macs, but for PCs, you have this PRT SCR button, which allows you to take a screenshot of whatever window you're looking at, of your entire screen, and then you can like open it. So right now, if I hit print screen, and then I open my paint, and then I paste, this is what I get. Am I sharing my screen right now? Yeah, I'm not sharing my screen. That was a fail. So again, let me do this again. If I, right now, oh no, well here I have to hit stop share. Right now I'm looking at all 12 pictures. If I hit print screen, now let me start share, and then I open up paint. So here's my paint, and then I paste into paint. That's a great picture. So this is what we get. Okay, so here, make a print screen, or at least just remember, we want to print, instead of just 4 individual asterisks, we would like to print a triangle of size 4, where the first row has 1 asterisk. The next row has 2 asterisks. The next row has 3 asterisks, and the next row has 4 asterisks. So the row number is going to have that many asterisks. So I'd like the same people to code, but I need the group to walk them through this. But for those of you who, let's just say you already know the answer, don't just jump out and state the answer, okay? Faster way is Windows plus print screen. If I hit the Windows button, print screen? I don't know what Windows print screen is. But if that works on your computer, fantastic. So I got a private message saying it's faster to do Windows print screen. Whatever works for you, do a print screen, or at least just know that we want to do this, okay? So here, what I'd like you to do is, if you know the answer already, don't just shout it out to your group, because try to let them think about it, but talk about it for a couple of minutes. How can we possibly go from printing with a single for loop with 4 stars, okay? And I want you to use 2 for loops.
There's a Pythonic way of doing this. I don't want you to do the Pythonic way of doing this. The Pythonic way would be actually to do one for loop and just use multiplication. That's not what I want you to do. The purpose here is I want you to practice using 2 for loops. So think about what that inner for loop needs to be, how many times it's going to iterate per row, okay? And then try to solve this. And as a like a baby step goal along the way, if this is a little bit hard, try to just print this. Try to print a square of 4 by 4, okay? And then that should be pretty easy. Make that if you don't mind. Let's do this actually. Let me augment this request. Print a square of asterisks. So do that, and then on that same program, and now we print a triangle of asterisks. So print three things. Here are 4 asterisks. Now we print a square of asterisks, and then afterwards say, and now we print a triangle of asterisks. I want you to print all of that, okay? This baby step goal here should be more manageable, because really it's just for on every line, we want to print 4 asterisks using a for loop. But on the same row, the idea of using your comma end and the idea of putting an extra print statement, kind of like what we did on the multiplication table. Give that a shot. I'm going to come visit you in your breakout rooms. So I think it's the same rooms. So try to have the same people coding again this time, please. And again, very quickly, just for the video, solve this one. So this was, so I got to move the pictures over. So here is a triangle of asterisks, and let's copy paste. Here are, and here is a square of asterisks. Don't need the dot format. For I in range num, for j in range num, we print that, comma end, and then we put a print sign, a print statement afterwards. Cool. And one more, and here is a triangle of asterisks. Oops, I didn't actually code that yet. So let's code it, and here's a triangle. So what do we do in the triangle? Well, for I in range num, so if we put 4, I is going to go from 0 to 3, right? So I'll leave that as num, but now I'm going to say for j in range, if I said j in range I, it's going to actually start, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say 1 comma num plus 1. So this outer loop is going to iterate from 1 all the way, if num was 4, it's going to iterate from 1 all the way up to 4. And now this inner loop, I'm going to have it iterate over I. So the first time we execute this outer loop, I is 1. Well, this says for j in range 1, so print 1 star. Then when I becomes 2, this inner loop will be for j in range 2, and we print 2 stars. Then on the outer loop, when I becomes 3, for j in range 3, and we print 3 stars, and so on. And that is our solution. Very little explanation given, and we'll look at more of the explanation within the individual breakout rooms. What happened?
I don't know how to do this.
Okay, then ask. No, that's fine, because it's like you're doing great. I walked in, and all of a sudden, You stopped. No, but your code looks great. So what do you want to print right there? You just want to print a star. So on line 12, just print your star. Okay, David, Jonathan, Chloe, can y'all give some feedback as we do this? Run this real quick and see what happens. Is it running? Did you hit run? There we go. Enter an integer, put 4. Okay, so it's printing. So can Chloe, David, can y'all give some suggestions of what do we need to add, or you might figure this out yourself?
Is it after the print statement you do comma end equals?
It's exactly what you do. So on that print statement, put comma end equals on line 12. So on line 12 actually is where you want to do that, Rebecca, not on line 8. Yep, and you can get rid of the actual space within the quotations. Yep. So run that. You still have one more thing to consider, but go ahead and run it and see what happens now. So now you have 16 stars all on one line. So where do you actually put, Chloe, David, Jonathan, where do you put that new line?
You do the print and then just an empty line in the first one, right? Like so if it was line 13, you just tab back one.
So tell us exactly where you want us to click at the end of
So
line.
click at the end of line 12.
I'd even
like
say at the
click.
end of line 13.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry.
No, now it's line 12. Yeah, end of line 12.
And then enter.
Perfect.
And then back up, and then just write an empty print statement.
So hit backspace once. There you go. So I'll tell you that right there, Rebecca, that is something that is not easy to think about at first. And we're all new programmers here, at least from my perspective. Some of us have experience, but now if you run that again, you're going to see that it's going to give you your square. Okay, nicely done. So what you can really do is we'll put a new line in front of the and on line 8. In front of the word and on line 8, put a new line by putting \n. Oh, that's /. You're close. Put a \n and get rid of that space before the A. Yep. That's just going to go ahead and print. Watch, if you run that again and check the difference on the output, that will put a blank line. Nice. So now copy lines 8 through 13. Copy that, hit enter at the end, hit backspace and paste, and change the word square to triangle, and discuss what y'all, and I want y'all to group discuss, really brainstorm as a group, what you need to change of that code. No, keep that as a square. Oh, rectangle, that's fine, whatever, square, rectangle. Think of what you need to change of this code in order to print that triangle. I'll be back.
Coding standards.